we've used the metaphor of the rocks in the jar in the time management. If it's all right to toss in this metaphor, the instructor in a class puts a big jar on the desk in front of the class, and it's a time management class, and he pours a bunch of rocks in the jar and asks the class, is the jar full? And they say, look at it and say, and he shook the jar so all the rocks, the big rocks that could fit in there are in there. And they say, yes, the jar's full. He says, oh, really? So he pulls a bucket of smaller gravel from behind his desk, and he pours that in and shakes it, and it fills in the spaces where the bigger rocks were not filling. And so he gets some gravel in there and shakes as much in, and he says, now is it full? And they said, yeah, you fooled us, and now it's full. He said, oh, really? So he pulls out the bucket of sand, and he pours some sand in there, and there's spaces where the sand can go in. And he says, is it full? And they say, well, I don't think so. Maybe there could be something else. We don't know what it is. So he pours water. And then he says, from a time management vantage point, what is the most important thing to derive from this? And well, they say, well, it's obvious. You can always fit more in your day. You can always do more. He says, no. The important thing is, what are the big rocks you put in the jar first? Because if you don't put the big rocks in the jar first, they're not going to fit later. Now, what are the big rocks in the jar here from an organizational healing vantage point, from a cultural healing vantage point, from a national and international healing vantage point, from a religion vantage point, from an individual and a family vantage point? Of course, trust, love, care, discipline, commitment, conscious awareness, education, constant willingness to transform and evolve and not to let go of the past without attachment, without aversion, without judgment, without punishment, without blame, to be willing to heal, to choose to courageously heal, even though it's painful, to walk right into the middle of our greatest, deepest pain and endure it and let it wash over us and be gone. As individuals, as a species, as nations, to choose not to go to a negotiating table and argue and bicker over, well, what happened last week or last month or last year, 50 years ago, and spend endless time like a skipping record going over and over and over the past and dramatizing it and claiming that it's not been healed, it can't be healed because I'd rather be in my pain forever than stop global warming or transcend and transmute prior tendencies that generate global warming and thus not destroy the planet. I'd much rather hold on to my identity, my experience, my pain, my suffering, my victimhood, my powerlessness, my capacity to blame, my supposed righteousness to judge and punish others endlessly so that I can feel better and I can feel safe, not being vulnerable, not being open, not be authentic, and thus not healing. So how many excuses can we feel or find or project or imagine for not simply being willing to dive right into the core of our pain and heal it right now?